Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.
Ken, are you there?
Yep.
Right, welcome to part two. As you can see, we've got Rocky, who's not he don't like coming here. It's like going on Green Mile when he comes here, and he's vulnerable. He's actually out of the house.
He's not even looking at you. He's not even looking at the camera. He doesn't like it. Sure he doesn't.
Right.
Has he caught that rat? Did he catch that rat?
No, they've been up and down factory. They can't find it. So if he wanted his McDonald's breakfast when we're done here, because I had to bribe her to come with me. Otherwise, you stood at home, aren't you, on Zoom and that.
Well, it's good she's out. It's good she's out in the work environment, experience.
Work experience. What? Looking for a rat here? There's a rat in the factory. What am I gonna do? There's a rat in the factory.
Brilliant. That's a UB40 song, isn't it?
Yeah, UB40. Do you know what UB40 stands for, Ken?
I remember heard before UB40 was it not something about if you didn't work or you were unemployed at the time? Something like that there.
UB40. That's what your dole card said, didn't it? Back in 80s.
Right. I heard Ali Campbell talking about it a couple of times.
Right, I've got a couple of questions here. What's the best technical dominant display you've ever seen, Ken, by an all-time great?
This is one that sticks out in my mind is when Roberto Duran come back and beat Davy Moore to the WBA title. I thought that was a really, really good performance. And what I liked about it was an old, aged Duran and fighting a really young, hungry, unbeaten fighter. And he just used all his strengths and all his experience and dominated Davy Moore. I thought that was probably one of my favorite performances of all time.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah. I rated Davy Moore as well. I rated all that year. Dave Boy, Green, a lot of them. Thought they were all good. They'd be world champions now, wouldn't they?
They would be unbelievable. And
imagine Dave Boy Green against Hans the Foam.
My word.
Button moon job.
I'll tell you another great performance. It was the Battle of the Bahamas. It was Mike McCallum against Julian Jackson. Julian Jackson at the time was terrifying fighters. His power was like nothing that anyone had seen before. The Hawk, he was punching so hard. Mike McCallum had come in that fight and basically just broke him down to the body, stayed away from he basically if you watch that fight, you watch how McCallum made Jackson fight his fight, and he made it an inside fight where he wasn't getting hit with those big headshots, and he basically just broke Jackson down and stopped him early. For me, that was a really smart.
So which is it, Ken? You can only pick one, right? You don't have to go through a full scenario in your head, but you're torn about it, Ken. I understand. Just pick one, please.
I have to go with Mike McCallum, the body snatcher.
Against Bomber Graham?
Julian Jackson.
Julian Jackson. Julian Jackson, a freakish power against Mr. Shoulder Roll.
Amazing performance. It's actually on YouTube right now. The Battle of the Bahamas. Check it out. Absolutely. I actually remember as well James Toney against Mike McCallum. What an absolute masterclass that was. James Toney. That was a peak James Toney. I know the James Toney that beat Michael Nunn was again another masterclass performance. But you watch James Toney against Mike McCallum one. That's an absolute masterclass.
Yeah. Who's the greatest? Not your favourite. Who's the greatest? Who is the greatest featherweight and lightweight of all time? Not favourite, the greatest. So you got featherweight and lightweight. I know what my two are. I know who Julian's is as well. Go on.
Okay, so I've been asked this question on this channel before a load of times. The greatest lightweight of all time is Roberto Duran.
Correct. And who's featherweight?
Salvatore Sanchez by a mile.
Hang on a second.
That's not even debatable.
Julian, you knew the answer that Kent would give to that. Salvatore Sanchez and Duran. It wouldn't have took Julian long to ask that one. Go on, sorry.
I remember I was talking to my mate Sam in work, and he's always asking me who did this, and he loves boxing. My mate Sam. And for me, I was telling him last week about Salvatore Sanchez, the Iron Lung. You know, this guy was probably one of the most dominant fighters I have ever seen. He's lived at 4,000 feet altitude. You look at the fighters he fought. You look at go and watch the fight with Salvatore Sanchez and Azuma Nelson. You know, with that era of featherweight fighters was like nothing we've ever seen. He could punch, he could box, he could punch hard out of range, in range, inside fighting. He was just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
He was unfightable.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question here for you, Kent. Ask Kent to break down Hagler versus Roy Jones at £160 over 15 rounds, both at their peaks, Kent. Woo! God, you'd be torn on that one, Kent, wouldn't you?
No,
you wouldn't be able to sleep night before, Kent, if they were fighting.
I wouldn't be able to sleep for a month before that, so I wouldn't. A month. I usually get like that with big fights. It's a weekend. Comes Wednesday, and I just can't stop thinking about it. I'm just so excited. I would think the way Hagler would go into that fight Hagler was really, really good at taking away your advantages. He was brilliant at it. He could take away your job. He could take away your power. He had power himself. His switch hitting was he was probably one of the best switch hitters in history. His balance was amazing. You know, the very fact that he could switch hit, but he could also punch really hard, and his unnatural stance shows that he can punch really, really hard. But that comes with exceptional balance. You know, you look at all the really, really good punchers in history, and you look at their balance, the really, really good balance. For me, I think Hagler, the way to beat a Roy Jones like that. Roy Jones, I always used to call Roy Jones Reluctant Roy. Even at his best, he liked to fight in spurts, in pockets that suited him. I think a fighter that walks forward and is really smart with their pressure, you know, like Hagler. I think, in my opinion, Hagler would have ran right through Roy Jones.
You reckon?
Yeah.
You think Roy Jones got through on just reflexes and being a twitch fighter for the first 5-6 years?
Fast twitch fighter. He was, I like that saying, a twitch fighter. I call it a reactive fighter. He's a very, very reactive fighter. He's very good at being reactive in the fight. But as the fight goes on, you're kind of not as fast twitch. You're kind of not as reactive. And I think a 15-round fight, I think anything after 10 rounds for Hagler in that fight, he was smashed into pieces.
How do you think Roy Jones, at his peak, stepping up to 168 and a cope with Froch? Do you think Froch would have got to him late on, or do you think he'd have just schooled Froch?
I think what would have happened in that fight, I think he would have fought it the exact same way as Andre Ward did. And that was really, really, really smart pressure inside, restricting Froch.
Scoring shots and then getting on your bike out of way.
Or even
Run it
worse,
round down.
Scoring the shots and holding. Scoring the shots and holding. I think that's how he would have fought the likes of Clark Froch.
Let me tell you a little story here, right? Do you know Mikhail Kessler's appeal when he fought Ward? Kalasauer wanted to know why Andre Ward were allowed to hold 8.1 times every round without a warning. There were 97 hot clinchers in the round.
Yeah,
I think with Frochers there were 104 because they had an extra round, didn't they? So you're holding on average 8 to 9 times every round in both of them fights. And headbutts galore. How Carl Froch didn't get cut, I don't know. He had bumps all over from headbutts. But Kessler, he got done with 6 headbutts, and he had 2 cuts there and 3 there. His face was cut to ribbons, wasn't it?
dreadful.
And nothing happened. I'm not having to go Andre Ward, a masterful boxer. He had a style that very hard to beat. A bit like Johnny Nelson, once he figured it out, they developed a style that is legal, and you're doing nothing wrong. It's not entertaining, but it's hard to fathom out. And I think that Andre Ward wouldn't have got away with that in the UK, and that's why he didn't want to come to the City Ground when Eddie Hearn put the offer to him. That's the bottom line. You can't just expect to have every single fight in your own country, can you?
You look at a lot of German fighters. You look at Henry Maske way back in the 90s.
Ken, you're digging old. You're going back in time there, getting nostalgic on me, Kent.
He's a brilliant. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time, and just loved. He had a really stand up, straight boxing style. You know, it worked for him. He was fighting at home. German TV at that time, you know, was massive. The viewers, the numbers that they were getting on German TV, what they were getting commercially was massive. You know, advertising and that. As you say, it was a style that worked. It was a style that was effective for the fighter, and I think it's good that fighters can actually box to their own strengths rather than trying different things. I think that's what winning's about, is boxing to your own strengths.
Okay. Big Meech. He's locked his son away for 4 days in darkness. And let me tell you this. That's hard because I've done 7 days in darkness myself. Years and years ago, I'm going back over 20 years ago, I went to court, found guilty, took me to old prison. There were no room at the inn. Do you know what they did with me, Ken? Me and 4 of the lads. They put us all in cells in Queen's Garden Hall. And mine never had a light in it. And I were there for 7 days waiting for a place at all. And do you know what, man?
Wow.
After about 3 days, I thought I was going stir crazy. So I don't know how he's going to do 4 days. But he can leave at any time, can't he? I can. Do you know what I mean? So I think that is probably going to make it worse, because I came out there when I got into old prison. I had a bad attitude. Plus, I had an ounce of solid up my arse a week. You know, solid soap bar dough, and you couldn't get any skins or backer or like I was like tortured for a week with that up my arse in darkness. Never again, mate. Never again. But so I don't know how he's going to cope, because I came out there and I hated the system. Made me even worse. It made me even worse. So he's either going to come out as a roadman killer or Walter Soft out the Beano. What do you think?
I think this is my narrative on it. This is my.
Well, we'll be calling him Little Meech when it comes out.
This is my take on it.
Hey,
so we're in the process of its Fury in Ghana.
Hang on a minute, we've got a bit of snot.
Fuck.
Go on.
We're in the process this week of Fury and Ngannou. It's getting a lot of press. It's getting a lot of media. It's getting a lot of hype. And basically, this story about Anthony Joshua has come out this week about him sitting in a dark room for 4 days straight. Personally, I think it's a load of nonsense. And I think it's just another story that Eddie Hearns turned around and says, right, you know what? They're talking about all week is for the last 2 weeks is this crappy fight, this event, as it's being billed. No one's talking about us. No one's talking about you. It's basically what Tyson Fury does all the time and creates a story, puts it out there for attention. I think it's a load of nonsense.
Right, this is how I look at it. Fury's top dog now in it as regards the media. Usyk's the man though. He's got the 5 or the 6 belts. But Usyk's playing second fiddle, isn't he now?
He's happy to do that, Russell. He's happy
just to get Fury in the ring. Listen,
he's happy to be that man on the outside, low key, under the radar. That's what he's about.
Have you ever thought, Kent, that Usyk just wants to play the game to get Greedy Belly in ring? But you know, looking at it now, they've said that much and done that much over the last year or so. He's been inactive 11 months. A man inactive 11 months, right? Are we to believe anything that this man says that he's going to fight? Well, fight week starts in 6.5 weeks for Usyk. So they've got to go back out there in another month to go through all this again. Or are they just going to stay out there? Well, let me tell you this. And don't forget, it's 2 days before Christmas to fight. So he's going to wake up on Christmas Eve after fighting Usyk and then go home. Nah, I'm not having it, mate. Are you having it, Ken?
No, I'm not. And I can't see how, and you look at the demographic of it, for years and years and years, I always remember Frank Warren putting on a massive show on the second week of December. And that was for people to buy tickets, maybe on a works Christmas night out. People, last big night out before Christmas. People don't have the money now to spend. Now, when Usyk and Fury, if it happens, that is not going to be £20. It's not going to be £20.
They're already saying 40, aren't they? They're already saying 40. They're testing water at 40, aren't they? 30 is not bad, is it? 30 quid.
Russell, I think it'll be £50. Okay, it's going to be £50 pay-per-view a day before Christmas. I cannot see that. No way.
You've been listening to that Andy Ayling. He's saying 50 quid, isn't he? To the chosen few. But I'm saying 40. 50.
I'm thinking. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the numbers that all this event. You look at the money they have to invest in it for the infrastructure to have the event, the platform, the partners. It's going to be £50 minimum.
Right, minimum. Kent, you're managing Usyk, hypothetically or whatever. Let's have this scenario. You're Usyk's manager, right? There's 6 heavyweight belts. WBC, Fury's got it. The other 5, WBO, but nobody counts. WBA, that are bent. IBF, that are still under investigation by the IRS. Every 12 months they have to hand the books in. And the IBO, which don't even do mandatories. And Ring Magazine. And then Fury's WBC, We Be Crooks. So, your manager, Usyk, I forgot the man's name, I can't pronounce it. You've got 5 of the 6 belts. And you've got Greedy Belly, who's got 1 belt. Your Olympic gold, undisputed cruiser. European gold, world gold, Olympic gold, all that, yeah. And you're told you're going to take 30%, right? Fury needs him for legacy. Usyk's got a legacy because he dominated everything he's ever done, hasn't he? If he can't get the belt of that Fury fight on Usyk on his terms, I think Usyk should be the man because Usyk's legacy is not damaged. He can't be expected to fight for 30%, can he? Surely?
No way.
So if he don't fight it, his legacy is intact. Fury's in. How can Fury be an all-time great? Vladimir, 40-year-old, 68 fight. Cunningham, life and death, dropped him. Former cruiserweight stepping up. And 2 Wilder wins. Are we to believe that's all-time great status, Ken? Because I'm not. 4 wins don't get your all-time great status.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And
40
I'll tell you why.
wins.
I'll tell you why. For years, when I love boxing, my education in boxing was boxing news, then boxing books, reading boxing books, videotapes, watching the great fighters on VHS. So I'm educated myself on great fighters.
Yeah.
See, right now, the narrative, it's all down to the media. The media now will say Tyson Fury's he's one of the greatest heavyweights ever. The only reason that they're saying that is because the media are told to say it. You know, they've been told to say, yeah, he's a top 5 heavyweight ever. Or, you know, you look at the casuals just don't understand that. And because they see it in the media, they're believing it. And for me, that you look at that resume, it doesn't stack up against for me. You look at, an Ali, a Foreman, a Frazier, a Lennox Lewis. Even Lennox Lewis, it doesn't stack up. It's about what they're being told.
14 wins, Lennox Lewis, like that. 14. 10 more than Fury.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah, so
10 more. So Fury's got another 4 years. No, that'll take Fury 10 years to get them 10, won't it?
Yeah.
He'll be 46 by the time he equals Lennox. So, no, he ain't an all-time great. He squeaks into top 20. In fact, not even through back door. Through cat flap.
And what we're being told now from Frank Warren about, it's all about your what you sell on pay-per-view.
Mr. Integrity, Frank Warren.
We didn't hear the numbers. We didn't hear the numbers on the Dale Boy fight. We didn't hear the numbers on the Dillian White fight. Yes, he sold out Wembley, for the Dillian White fight, but that doesn't.
So we just check on her because she's capable of
having 70% of the purse.
But I am. All right. Yeah, go on.
And it's all down to now that they're using Wembley now as the leverage. They're using Wembley now as the leverage for having the share of the purse bid, the purse split of 70%. I'm not buying 70%. There's no way. But if Usyk's that confident of beating him, and that 30% that he's getting is going to be a lot more than any other purse he has had before.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that, but this is how I look at it. You're his manager, Ken, hypothetically or whatever. Let's pretend that you're Usyk's manager. You know that, you can. Now, you're going into bat for him in negotiations, right? We're offering 30%, so Fury says to Usyk's team or Bricktop. You say, listen, I've got 5 of the 6 belts. We've won everything as an amateur, European World Olympic. They won WBSS. He smashed up Joe Joyce in the final, didn't he, with headgear off. He's beat everybody at heavyweight, Joshua twice. You'd have thought he'd be entitled to a little bit more than 30%, wouldn't you? Come on.
Absolutely. For me, the argument starts.
Greedy belly! Greedy. Isn't it, Rocky? Greedy.
For me, the argument starts, if it was me as the manager, you would be starting at 40%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ken, if I were Usyk's manager, I'd just sit there and say, look, our legacy is intact. We want 50% to make this fight happen. If we take 40%, in the rematch, if we win, we want it reversing. So you take 40, but you get a rematch, and if you win it, or get a draw, you want. If you win if you win the first one, the rematch is 60%, right, for Usyk if he wins.
Yeah.
But if it's a draw, the rematch is 50% each. It shouldn't take hours to complete a deal like that. Why it took forever, I don't know. Probably because they've got this Ngannou fight on, and that's good business sense. Well, let's have it right. We're talking a lot of hype, a lot of views, a lot of platforms. It's all hype, but we're still not getting fights. We're getting all this hype. We've got a man in which champ who will never box, and they're putting it on box rec. That's my argument, right? If the Usyk fight doesn't happen December 23rd, what knackers are they going to tell us then? Because it's just getting further and further away then, isn't it? Isn't it? What are they going to say then, Jan? Oh, then Feb. But what about April? In fact, July 24. What about July 28? It just keeps getting further and further. If this fight doesn't happen December 23rd, we've been mugged off by these yet again. And we'll allow them to do it again because it's a manipulation of the press. Whatever the press are in the palm of their hand and they're getting views, they're just going to keep giving them attention, aren't they? Like we're doing now. We want the sport to be like it were in 80s, don't we? With Agler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, and like it were in Super 6, because in years from now, they'll look back on that Super 6 tournament and they'll say, well, what about these chaps here? They all got stuck in. Even substitutes got stuck in, didn't they?
Yeah.
We'll look back on that and go, wow, because what we got now, they can't even get something like that in UK with light heavyweights, can they? Because they've got the top two wanting to outdo each other, the promoters. It's the promoters that are at fault, but the biggest people at fault, and they've got to be 70% at fault, are the platforms, because there's no quality control. They're giving carte blanche to these promoters to serve up crap because it's doing views for sponsors and it's having a detrimental effect on the sport. I know kids now that don't even want to take up boxing. They wanted to take up UFC. I mean, look at Julian's kid. Are you telling me Julian, for years since they were a kid, Joe, hadn't been on pads at Julian's gym or in garage? Of course he has. He can box. But he don't want to box now. He wants to do UFC. And he's about 10 stone wet through. He's only like that. And he's like lightning. And it just shows you don't judge a book by its cover. But that young Joe McGowan wants to do UFC. His dad's one of the best trainers in the country. His dad's a teacher of trainers. Do you understand?
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, go ask all that Warrington lot. His dad teaches trainers. Trainers teach boxers, but who teaches the trainers? Julian McGowan teaches people how to be a trainer. So he's at the top of his game, isn't he? Right?
Yeah.
And he walks away from the sport because he's got morals and all that, Julian, but his phone's red hot every day and people wanted him to train people. If not train fighters, train trainers. Do you understand? So can you imagine how good he would have been, how good Joe would have been at boxing? But he's not interested. He wants to do a UFC because his generation, his pals he knocks about with at school, they'll all sit up at night watching it. They'll have a pizza and they'll watch UFC all night.
That's all I heard. That's all I heard on Saturday afternoon with my mates, and all they talked about the whole time was you watching UFC. I must have heard that conversation 4 times, four different people asking each other.
Well, let me tell you this weekend, I'm going to Bury this weekend, right? I might even call in at Bury Working Men's Club. See my old friend, Matt Bowes. You remember him, don't you? Matt Bowes from Boxing Asylum. I'll catch up with you this weekend in your local, Matt. If you're out, remember me, don't you? Hey? You remember me, don't you, Matt Bowes? I'll see you this weekend if you're in Bury. I'm going there this weekend to interview kickboxer, UFC kid. I'll be there all weekend, Bury. So I'm looking forward to that. But them lads all love the boxing, but they're all like UFC down there now. They all love that kind of thing. And Frank, my good friend from Bury, he's been chipping away at me now since 2017, I think, to 2016. Since 2016 to do UFC because he's one of his best mates is Tom Aspinall, and Tom Aspinall's dad's one of his closest friends. And they're lovely Aspinalls, and I don't really know enough about the sport, to be honest, to start giving an opinion. Not that I know much about boxing, but I like to think I'm more boxing than UFC, but I have started watching odd fight. I watched the one of a night, George St. Pierre, is it? Pierre
George St. Pierre.
Yeah, I watched him and I thought he had his, I think he did his legging or something, did he? I'm sure it was him or a guy he fought. One of them's leg snapped. I was like,
He's a brilliant fighter. GSP was absolutely amazing welterweight back in the day. He was one of the best ever.
One of the best kids though I've ever met from that place is from that sport is Tom Aspinall. What a lovely kid. Well, I've interviewed him on my channel, interviewed him at Gary Boo's gym. What a lovely kid he is, Tom Aspinall. And I saw him with Eddie Hall on a clip-on shorts. And he gave Eddie Hall a couple of taps on the leg and he had this big pad thing on. And I've seen stuff like I've seen Rico Vero even at Peter's gym. Obviously, Peter does boxing training with him, doesn't he? And sharpens him up. But he were doing some kicks there. And I thought to myself, you're already going out on a Saturday night and giving it the bigger night and shouting your mouth, and somebody just gives you a little tap on the leg. You've got a broken leg, haven't you?
Basically a broken leg, yeah.
Broken leg, mate. You've got to limp out at pub.
Yeah.
What if he gives you a crack on the other leg? You'd have to crawl out there, wouldn't you?
Absolutely brutal.
So, whereas in past, I used to say, not for me, that's gay porn. It ain't, because I've seen them training. When they warm up, they do all these rolls and all that. And it's like a head to toe training, whereas boxing ain't really, it's waist to head, isn't it? Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
You look at Thai fighting, Muay Thai fighting as well.
Yeah, Muay Thai, yeah. We also Riddick Bowe try it, didn't we?
Monsters.
What did he do to Riddick Bowe, that guy?
He rolled him up like a pretzel, so he did.
He gave him a couple of taps on his thigh, didn't he? And that Riddick Bowe, 500 grand in his pocket. He limped home, didn't he?
Wheelchair.
Hey, what a wheelchair! I seen it, mate. They wheeled him on plane. It was that big. Yeah. He had to get in 2 seats. Pop, bang.
3 seats.
So it's a tough sport. So I respect the training and everything, but I don't know enough about it to follow it, and I'd look embarrassed. I'd have to get people on here who know it and be talking about it. I don't know if I could go back. But it isn't that long to go back, is there, with it? You know, like boxing goes back 100 odd years, doesn't it?
I remember my first ever time I ever seen UFC was in '97. I bought a videotape in Virgin Megastores, and it was UFC, and it was Ken Shamrock against I think it was Ken Shamrock against Oleg Taktarov, the Russian Bear, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just brutal, and I've got all the first 10 UFC events on DVD, and basically they were no rules. It was an octagon with no. The only rules that you weren't allowed to do was eye gouge and fish hook the mouth, and from that there, it's just evolved and evolved. I followed UFC for 21 years, so I have, and I love watching it. I don't love it as much. Is that how long it's
been going, Ken? 21 years.
A long time. I think now it's close to. I think it's coming up to being close to the 30 years.
Who was main man before Dana White then?
So what happened was it was basically owned by a guy called Art Davey, who basically started the UFC. And what they had at the time is that they wouldn't get sanctioned in any commission because it was so brutal. So basically they went around like small commissions getting licensed. Basically they weren't allowed on terrestrial TV. So how they worked was they sold their events on closed circuit, the old closed circuit television back in the 90s, but it was hemorrhaging a lot of money, but it sold really well on the gate. But because they were on closed circuit, they didn't quite get the pay-per-view money. It took a long time. So basically they went bankrupt, and it went up for sale. It was $1 million. And that's
Is that what they bought it for?
That's what happened was it went for sale for $1 million.
2-0.
And it was basically Lenzo Fajita brothers, and Dana White bought it.
Is that who bought it? Yeah.
Lenzo Fajita The Fajita brothers and Dana White bought it for $1 million, and basically they said what they got for $1 million was an octagon, mats, chairs, some lights, some cameras, and that's what they got for $1 million. And they had to develop the brands, and how they developed the brand was they had to get the commissions on board. So they basically had to license it with the commissions. They had to bring in rules and regulations, and basically it's evolved from there. What was it? 7 years ago, the Fajita brothers sold the UFC to a company called Endeavor, and they basically bought the rights to the UFC, and basically Dana White still is a shareholder to the UFC.
Well, what's it worth now? 5 billion, isn't it?
It's basically they're it's been took over obviously by a company and a consortium that actually has a percentage now in WWE. So WWE and UFC are owned by the same umbrella company.
So Dana White's been involved how long?
Close to 30 years. 20 years. A long time, yeah.
So basically, Dana White has turned £1 million company into a 5 billion, yeah?
Maybe more.
So let's say if it's 1 million to 5 billion, that's 5,000 millions, isn't it?
Yeah.
5,000 million. So it's like having a pound and turning it into 5 grand. We investing in it. £1.
Yeah.
Here's a pound. Here, Ken, I'm going to give you a quid. I'll see you in 20 years giving me 5 grand. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it? So he's done fantastic, Dana White, hasn't he, with it?
It's been genius, and what happened was they were hemorrhaging money after event, and they needed to get people to watch it and get people behind it. And the plan was it was make or break, and they had the concept of the Ultimate Fighter series, and that was basically 2 weight divisions, a reality TV show that was shown once a week on Spike or Bravo, that it was here. And it was like fighters that maybe didn't make it, lost a few, weren't getting the recognition, weren't getting exposure. They put them all in a big house, and they had a tournament. And at the end of the tournament, it was that you're crowned ultimate fighter. The winner of the Ultimate Fighter got a contract from the UFC, and it was really, really popular. It absolutely took UFC. The original final of the Ultimate Fighter was Stephen Bonner, who sadly passed away, and Forrest Griffin in the final. And it was just an absolute war, and it got people behind. UFC really took off as the brand from that Ultimate Fighter final. It was amazing.
Okay, right. We'll finish off on this question, Kent. We've got 2 minutes, 20 seconds left. Was Usyk and Fury happen on December the 23rd, and Wilder and Joshua on December the 23rd? On the undercard, yes or no?
No. Impossible.
And what about Conor Benn against Chris Eubank Jr. December 23rd, yes or no?
No.
Does Ngannou knock Fury out?
No chance.
Right, okay. Is this show at the weekend the money grab?
It is. It's a advertising. This is an advertising bout.
How many times in boxing do we hear about people gonna do this and gonna do that, and it never happens?
Every day.
Right. What happened to Skills Challenge? Where are they? They were going to do wonders. All they've done is sit on cucumbers. What's happened to them?
Did they even exist?
There you go. All right. On that note, Ken, I'm off to McDonald's and JD Sports for some trainers for my little girl.
Did Ruby get that rat? Did she get that
rat? Did you get Ruby? Did you catch that rat? Yes or no? No. Wasn't it there? Right. Well, are you going to take him up and down all aisles again and have one more look while I finish off, yeah? Well, then chop. Earn your trainers. Rocky, go on, burn rubber. Okay, right, Ken, you're a gentleman. You take care. and I will see you again soon. Keep in touch.
Peace out.
Peace out. Well, that were Kent. Women love him, men want to be him. That's about it, really. I better go keep my part at bargain, I don't know. That'll be a good, won't it? Leaving my dog in car while I'm in shop. So, Ruby! Oh, she's gone down there. Just checking. She's going to earn a keep today. That's about it, really. Back on Zoom later with Julian. Four-parter. Going to be a corker. That'll be it. I'll take my dogs out for a run. I've got my little dog Roxy at vet today in Barnsley for antibiotics. She keeps scratching all the time. So that's about it, really. Crazed XL bully attacks 3 children in separate incidents weeks apart. It's the owners, not the dog. All right. Go on, peace out. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. So if anybody's got a problem with what we said in part 1 and part 2, it's pretty simple, really, isn't it? Come on, Porky's Corner at mail.com. And come and have a debate with me. All right? Instead of hiding behind your keyboards. Come on, Rocky, let's see if we can find this rat. Come on. Come here. Come on, you're supposed to be doing your job. Around here, innit? Come on. So. Around here. This is where it's big, look. Right there. Come on. So that's about it, really. Alright. Everybody have a great day. Alright. Peace out.